I can't seem to stop babbling. Can anyone tell me how I could stop? Of course, that would be... Man, tacky colored car. Glad you didn't have to see it. Of course, that would be just knowledge if someone told me. First, I stumbled across a really good Neil deGrasse Tyson video. He was also quoting... Who's that dude? Oh, Carl Sagan. And they were talking about the blue dot Earth. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's a good scientist, but he's not too religiously materialistic. He doesn't believe the hype, so to speak. But he was talking about space in such a majestic way that it sounded and was spiritual, just as spiritual as anything. Perhaps more so, because it was more down to earth, and yet one with space and all that. Really good speech. I told him, great speech. I told him it was the best talk I ever heard from him. And then a few weeks later, I stumbled on Elon Musk talking about aliens. And I left too many remarks for him. That was last night. It was late in my excuse. And then today, stumbled on one more talk from Elon Musk about why he doesn't pray to God. But then he starts talking about things. It depends what you mean by spiritual. See, so he knows, just like Neil deGrasse, that science and spirituality come together. Spirituality drops religious hocus pocus. And as science becomes more open-minded, and I mean open, like where 0 equals 1, like before knowledge, before obsessing over knowledge. And he was talking about things that were spiritual, how nice the universe was. I'm definitely rephrasing it way more retardedly than he said it. It was actually a good speech. I don't think he ever said why he didn't pray exactly, but and everything else he said was great anyway. And he's talking about knowledge. You know, him and Lucy. What's that movie, Lucy? When she gets real smart, she ingests too many drugs by accident. Talking about knowledge. These are people who... It's like this. He says perhaps we evolved from simplicity, and I've put out a comment saying, if we evolved from dust and an amoeba on this blue dot sometime in the last 4.5 billion years, whatever, and before us there was still a universe before us, and you know, people say the Earth peoples, and it makes people if we develop from a dot. I don't remember my comment either. If we develop from a speck of dust into an amoeba, one cell, multi-cell, blah 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 blah, how if we can't even create a human now, millions of years evolved later with all our science and everything, if we can't even create a human, not an android or a robot or an AI robot, but an actual human, or even a dog or anything. I don't mean copying, droning a dog's cells that's already there. I'm talking about actually create one. If we can't create one now, how on earth did an amoeba or whatever before an amoeba, a single cell, that is a single cell, isn't it? But in any event, a speck of dust floating in space, and then whatever the heck, enzymes, and then an amoeba, and then a single cell, 2 cells, and how did that create a human being? And like one could say, if they want to take the scientific standpoint, I didn't babble this much in that comment. I left him too many comments, man. I hope he doesn't assassinate me. Leon, if you ever stumble on this video, I'm really done bugging you, man. I really don't talk too much except for right now in those comments. That car just made noise while I was making this video. Oblivious to the fact that I'm the center of the universe. I really am done babbling. This is the last blibble babble, because I know babble's quite beside the non-point of things. But anyway, I said, if we can't create a human now, or a dog or a cat, how on earth did an amoeba create a human? And one could say, I thought after I finished that little paragraph, that an amoeba could have just an electronic craving to balance out. Excuse me. I could have balanced. Sorry, I'm doing a video. To balance out whatever imbalance they have, could have a craving, so to speak, to become balanced. Want to call that a craving for food, or a sexual craving, or anything else on a side note like drugs or this or that. But more so, probably more fundamentally, some matter, antimatter thing, maybe even before electricity, has a craving to find their equanimity and become neutralized, okay? Perhaps to return to their original state, by the way, very likely. Because if you study science or religion, they come together the more you learn about them, so to speak. People say return to the one, return to the Tao, return to original nature, name the religion, and in Scientology or science it has something like that too. So perhaps one wishes to return to its own self. Elon was saying in his talk, what is the question? The question is harder to come up with than the answer. Once you get the question, it's pretty easy to get the answer. Something like that. I'm horribly rewording it again. And the question, if you ask any Zen master, is who am I? People have waited. There are people who have just haggled with that question, staring at a wall for like 10 years, 20 years. Who am I? Your face before your parents had you, before you were born. Not the guy who wants to be famous or whatever. Maybe I'm thinking right now about Zen. Not the guy who wants to be a Zen master or a movie star or anything, who wants to be rich or pick up chicks or be famous. Whatever, or some girl who wants to be powerful or famous. You know, whatever silly thing people have been raised to think is that they want, and they're raised to think that's their point. Will I be a UFC star? Will I be the greatest blah blah that ever lived? Will they love me? More fundamentally, will people love me if I aspire to this? You know, long before then you get to the point where you realize you're everybody else. You don't need anyone else to love you. But people have all these false aspirations and fake aspirations, false idols. And long after you drop all those things, there's still who am I, which means what do I really want? The real you, not your body, not your mind, your awareness, your easiness. The real you that you cannot see. You cannot understand because you're not bigger than it. You can't form a mental picture or a mental drawing around it, navigating it like knowledge is good for navigation and measuring. You cannot know it, who you are, because you're not bigger than yourself. You could maybe answer the question. Actually, I think Bodhidharma, the guy who invented Zen, someone asked him, the emperor of China said, who are you? And Bodhidharma said, I don't know. And that's after he was enlightened, by the way. But maybe if you drop all knowing, you can answer who you are, which is what you feel like, or at least you can feel what you feel like better and better, maybe getting turned or obscured by the motion around you in the less enlightened world, but you can feel it and get better and better at feeling your way to the answer. Not bother knowing it because your knowing could be false, or could have been false when you formed it, or right after you or as you formed it. But if you learn who you are and what you feel like, then you might know what you feel like, and maybe it's what antimatter feels like, balancing itself out, and so does antimatter, because they are probably both based on karma, based on movement, which is made to return to itself, to celebrate itself at the beginning and end of every Big Bang, etc., in every universe, etc. So what each little tiny little cell or speck of the universe might feel like, even smaller than electricity, is to return to its equanimity. And what we feel like as monocelled organisms, getting back to what I was babbling about before, may be feeling like this or that. You know, as a guy, as a horny dog, we may feel like wishing we were with a soft cat. As a hyper-minded cat, we maybe feel like we were with a bright-minded cone-nosed dog. And I'm equating men and women to dogs and cats in this one, but so maybe people say, or Freud says, it's sexual nature that drives us to procreate and blah blah. Maybe sexual nature made us become an amoeba to try to get equanimity, to equalize ourselves, to try to possess the feminine that we lacked, or to the masculine that we lacked, or put more currently, the easy mind that we lacked, we were short on, or the easy body we were short on. Try to get it outside of ourselves, try to possess it. And so we said, hey, this over here is easier or softer, this one's over here is softer or brighter, let's go here. And then we want to possess it. And then we say, when we're an amoeba, we say, well, if we alter this way, we can flop this way, and it works a little better. We feel it reciprocally by the reaction that we have. We feel this, this is more of it, this isn't it, we want to go this way. We'll have more power if we become 2 cells, so we want to go that way. And 4 cells, and we got more and more powerful, we want this, we want that. We want to assume more energy, so we have more power to get what we want. All trying to possess it, and then we become multi-celled, 100-celled, million-celled, billion-celled. And we said, if we create this mind computer, not the computer that we invented 50 years ago, but just the regular computer, the mind computer, let's work on a cerebral cortex, and gives us better insight as to how to get more of this, that. We got to get that. So we create a body and a mind, whether we're a dog or a cat or a human, it was made a little bit of a better computer, perhaps. And we create this human thing over millions and billions of years. And all of it is over a craving to become who we really are. And I said to Elon in my comment, how could a stupid amoeba create a human when we can't even create one now? Well, Elon had said in his thing, evolved from simplicity. I understand what that meant. I looked back at it a second later after I said that stupid paragraph. That's what he meant, probably. Evolved from reactive awareness, or you want to call it, simplicity, us trying to get what we want through what works and what doesn't work. And so far, from the amoeba up to the current humans, it's been to try, excuse me, center of the universe here, thank you. I don't know quite what that noise was. So far, it has been to try to possess it. Whether it be an amoeba, a caterpillar, a cat, a dog, a turtle, this, that, or the other, an ant. Try to possess it. Do what we do. We got to get our food. We got to make our house. We got to do all these things to get comfortable, to create more strength, to go try to possess that which we want. And until now, that has been the thing. Now we have a little bit more of a reflective reasoning and all that stuff, which may or may not help. But we could look back now, these days, and say, you know, to get this equilibrium now, we might not have to do all this stuff. We might not have to, I don't know, just take over control of nature and the whole world. We may be able to, we may find an organic way to get it that we never thought of when we were a little monocelled amoeba. So filled with energy and not quite as reflectively aware as we are these days. We may suddenly realize that if we just relaxed in the first place, we would have become more of that which we wanted to become and who we really are. By that, plus cooperation of our surroundings, because other surroundings would like that we become it. Bicyclers. Excuse me. Video. Hey. Center of the universe here. Where was I? We might realize nowadays that it was not just nowadays, thousands of years ago, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Jesus, and so on. We may realize that if we relax, we can create more of it without creating more problems while we're at it. We can become it more efficiently, and as we become it, we may get the cooperation of our surroundings, which wants the same thing, which might be more productive than conquering our surroundings. We may be able to create more of it by becoming it much more efficiently, a thing that was right in front of us, and we didn't see because we were looking the whole time. Ergo, ergo. Don't know quite why I babbled this all out. It was originally going to be to correct that one little thing I said to Elon, like, how could we create a human? How could an amoeba create a human? It could evolve from simplicity by its own cravings. Nonetheless, my point was, even if an amoeba could create a human, my point was that our awareness is more value and function than what we know. What we know is a tool. Our awareness is what is behind what we know. That is greater in many ways. Ergo. And I don't remember why the hell I said all that to Elon anyway. It's something about spirituality. So busy babbling that I forgot. That's too bad. Oh well, at least I flopped out a good video. So I think, at least if I shut up, it won't be completely bad. That's it.